May here, filling in today. Erica is at a policy roundtable in DC until late tonight. So the show rolls on without her, and the panel is ready to walk you through the topic. There is a VIA benefit worth thousands of dollars a year that elderly wartime veterans miss constantly, a benefit that could cost you years of unclaimed money if you confuse it with the wrong program. It is called the Veterans Pension with an add-on called Aid and Attendance. And for a single veteran who needs daily help, it runs as high as $29,093 a year in 2026. The reason so many miss it comes down to one quiet mix-up: confusing the needs-based veterans pension with service-connected disability compensation, treating them as the same check when they are two completely different programs with opposite rules. Here is what we are covering. We're going to walk through those two programs side by side, test the three eligibility pillars one by one, decode the rate math, and show survivors a benefit most of them walk straight past.
Fenrir here, and I want to put a face on that number before we go anywhere. Last episode we walked through survivor and dependent benefits, and today we go deeper into a program right next door to those. Imagine a veteran who served 2 years during the Vietnam era, never filed a disability claim, and is now 78 years old living on a small Social Security check, assuming the VA is only for combat wounded veterans.
Grace here, and the part that frustrates me is how avoidable it is. The needs-based pension exists precisely for that veteran, the low-income wartime veteran, who is older or disabled, and it does not care one bit whether his knees or his hearing trace back to the service.
Isabella here. Think of it like two doors at the same building, both marked VA, but one opens to service, connected compensation, and the other opens to needs-based pension. People walk up to the compensation door, get told their condition is not service, connected, and leave, never noticing the second door was the one they actually needed.
And behind that second door for a single veteran who needs daily help. The maximum runs to $29,093 a year in 2026. That is real rent, real caregiving, real dignity, sitting unclaimed because of a name mix-up.
There is also a survivor side to this, a pension for the low-income widows and widowers and children of wartime veterans, and we will get there, because that is the most overlooked corner of the whole program.
So hold on to that two-door image, the compensation door and the pension door. Because almost everything that goes wrong starts at the wrong door. By the end of this, you will know exactly which one belongs to you or someone you love. And the very first thing we have to settle is why these two checks live in completely separate worlds. Let us lock in the single distinction that everything else hangs on, because if you only remember one frame from this video, make it this one. Disability compensation answers the question. Did your service injure you? Veterans pension answers a completely different question. Are you a low-income wartime veteran who needs help now?
Compensation is paid for a condition. The VA has connected to your military service. And here is the counterintuitive part. It does not care how much money you make. A veteran earning $200,000 a year still collects every dollar of a service-connected rating, because compensation is not a needs-based program.
Pension flips that on its head. It is squarely needs-based, which means your income and your net worth have to fall under limits Congress sets each year, and your disability does not have to come from service at all. A bad heart, age, arthritis from civilian life, any of it can qualify you, as long as you served during a recognized wartime period.
I think of it as the difference between an insurance payout and a safety net. Compensation is the payout. You earned it through a service, connected injury, and you collect it no matter your bank balance. Pension is the safety net. It catches low-income wartime veterans who are aging or disabled, regardless of how that disability happened.
Now here is where I want to push back a little, because I think people hear needs-based and assume pension is the lesser benefit. It is not lesser, it is just aimed at a different veteran, and for that veteran it can be the larger and more urgent check.
That is a factor analysis of information risk correction, and the resolution is simple. Neither program is better, they serve different people. The danger is only when a veteran files on the wrong track, claiming compensation for a condition with no service connection, gets the expected denial, and quits before anyone ever screens him for pension.
And to be precise, these two are not mutually exclusive in theory. Though the VA will not pay you both pension and compensation at the same time, it pays whichever is greater. So the real lesson, Fenrir, is to get screened for both, rather than assuming the word that does not fit you closes the door.
Exactly, and a recurring question we see from families online is whether a parent who never deployed to combat can still qualify. And the answer is yes, because pension never required combat, only wartime era service, which we are about to break down in detail. There are 3 pillars holding up pension eligibility, and a veteran has to stand on all 3 at once. The first pillar is qualifying service, and it surprises people most because the bar is lower than they fear in one way and stricter in another. The lower than you fear part is the word wartime. The VA does not ask whether you saw combat, only whether one day of your active duty service fell inside a recognized wartime period.
That distinction matters enormously because a cook stationed in Texas during the Vietnam era checks that box just as cleanly as a frontline infantryman. Combat was never the test, the era was, which is exactly why so many older veterans qualify without ever guessing they could.
The stricter part is the length of service, and it splits on one date, September 8th, 1980. If you started active duty before that date, you need at least 90 days of active duty, with at least one of those days during a wartime period.
If you entered after September 7th, 1980, the bar generally rises to 24 months of active duty, or the full period you were called up for, again with at least one day during wartime. So the modern era veteran has to clear a longer service requirement than the older veteran does.
Let me make wartime concrete because it is not a vibe. It is a set of legal date ranges. The Vietnam War era runs from November 1st, 1955 to May 7th, 1975, for those who served in the Republic of Vietnam, and from August 5th, 1964 to May 7th, 1975. Otherwise,
And the Gulf War period is the one that quietly matters most today, because it opened on August 2nd, 1990, and has never officially closed. That means a huge slice of veterans who served in the decades since are technically wartime era veterans for pension purposes, even if they never deployed anywhere.
The last piece of Pillar 1 is the discharge, and it has to be under conditions other than dishonorable. So an honorable or a general discharge keeps the door open, and a veteran who is unsure exactly which wartime window his dates fell into should pull his DD-214 and check the entry and separation dates against the VA list.
Pillar 1 is the gate, grace. And if a veteran cannot clear wartime service, pension simply is not the program for him. But most older veterans who served during Vietnam, Korea, or the open Gulf War window clear it without realizing they ever could. Which is exactly why Pillar 2 is where the real screening happens. Pillar 2 is the needs test, and this is where most people either disqualify themselves wrongly or overlook the rules that pull them back into eligibility. The headline number is the net worth limit. And from December 1st, 2025 through November 30th, 2026, that limit is $163,699.
And here is the detail that trips everyone. Net worth in VIA language is not just your savings, it bundles your assets and your annual income together into one figure that has to stay under that limit. So a veteran with modest savings but a pension and social security stacking up can still be over, and a veteran with almost no income but a paid-off nest egg has to watch the asset side.
Now, for the relief, because the rules are kinder than that headline sounds. The home you actually live in does not count toward net worth, and neither does your primary vehicle or your basic personal belongings. So a veteran living in a paid-off house worth more than the limit is not automatically disqualified by the house alone.
And the income side has its own escape hatch that I wish every family knew about: unreimbursed medical expenses. The VA lets you subtract out-of-pocket medical and care costs from your countable income, and for an elderly veteran paying for in-home aids or assisted living, those costs can be enormous. Picture a veteran whose Social Security looks too high to qualify on paper, but who is paying $4,000 a month for memory care. Once those care costs are deducted, his countable income can drop to almost nothing, and suddenly he is squarely eligible. The expense that is draining him is the very thing that opens the door.
There is a warning attached to Pillar 2 though, and it is a big one. Since October 2018, the VA has a 3-year look-back period, so if a veteran gives away assets or moves them into certain trusts to get under the limit, the VA can impose a penalty period during which no pension is paid.
That is the mistake to avoid treating asset transfers as a quick fix the way some people approach Medicaid planning. Pension planning and Medicaid planning are not the same machine, and a transfer that helps one can sabotage the other. So this is exactly the moment to talk to a VA accredited agent or attorney before moving a dollar.
So Pillar 2 is a two-sided test, assets plus income under $163,699, softened by the home and vehicle exclusions and the medical expense deduction, but guarded by that 3-year look back. Clear Pillars 1 and 2, and you are eligible, and that is when Pillar 3, the rate math, decides how big your check actually is.
Now we get to the part people find confusing, the rate math, and understanding it dissolves almost every "why is my check this size" question. There is a number called the maximum annual pension rate, the MAPR. And the key is that it is not what the VA pays you, it is a ceiling for a single veteran with no dependents and no add-ons. The basic MAPR in 2026 is $17,441 a year.
And the VA does not hand you that whole amount. It fills only the gap between that ceiling and your countable income. So two veterans with the same MAPR can get very different checks, depending entirely on how much income they already have.
Here is the analogy that makes it click. Think of the MAPR as the water line in a tank, and your income as the water already in there. The VA pours in just enough to reach the line, no more. So if your countable income is low, the VA pours in a lot, and if your income is already near the line, it pours in only a trickle.
Let me run a clean example with round numbers. Say a single veteran has $6,000 a year in countable income after his medical deductions. The VA subtracts that from the $17,441 ceiling, leaving about $11,441 a year, which it then divides by 12 into a monthly check of roughly $950.
And this is why the medical expense deduction from Pillar 2 is so powerful, because it does not just decide whether you qualify, it directly sets the size of your check. Every dollar of countable income you legitimately deduct is a dollar the VA pours back into the tank for you.
Dependents move the ceiling up. A veteran with one dependent, usually a spouse, has a basic MAPR of $22,839 in 2026 rather than $17,441. Higher ceiling, same gap logic. So the potential check is larger.
And here is the bridge to the next two scenes. The add-ons we keep teasing, aid and attendance and Housebound, do their work by raising that MAPR ceiling. They do not change your income, they lift the water line, and a higher line means the VA pours in more.
So hold that picture. Isabella, the ceiling is the MAPR, the check is the gap, and the add-ons raise the ceiling. Stick with me here, because coming up next is the single most valuable piece of this entire program, the add-on that can nearly double a single veteran ceiling. Aid and attendance is the headline of this whole episode, the single most valuable and most missed piece. And the first thing to understand is what it is not. It is not a separate benefit you apply for on its own. It is an add-on that sits on top of the veteran's pension and raises the ceiling we just discussed.
You qualify for aid and attendance if you receive a pension and you meet at least one of a short list of conditions. The most common one is needing another person to help you with daily activities, the basics, bathing, feeding, dressing, the things that quietly become impossible as a body ages or a disability deepens.
The list goes further than help with daily activities though. You also qualify if you are bedridden, if you are a patient in a nursing home because of a disability, or if your eyesight is severely limited down to 50/200ths or less in both eyes, or a very narrow field of vision.
Now the number that should make everyone sit up. When aid and attendance is added, the MAPR ceiling for a single veteran with no dependents leaps from $17,441 all the way to $29,093 a year in 2026. That is the $29,000 figure we opened the show with. For a veteran with one dependent, that aid and attendance ceiling climbs to $34,488. Remember the tank, that is the water line jumping way up, which means the VA can pour in far more for the veteran who needs daily care.
And this is the heartbreaking irony, because the veteran who needs aid and attendance is exactly the veteran least able to navigate a benefits application. He is bedridden, or living with dementia, or being cared for by an exhausted spouse, and so the most valuable benefit in the program goes to the people with the least capacity to chase it.
Which is why I tell families the trigger to act is the moment care costs start, not the moment things become a crisis. The day you hire an in-home aide, the day a parent enters assisted living. That is the day to screen for aid and attendance, because those same care costs are the deductions that make the check large.
So aid and attendance is the engine of this benefit. Fenrir, an add-on that lifts a single veteran from a $17,000 ceiling to a $29,000 one. But there is a quieter cousin to it, a smaller add-on for veterans who do not need that level of daily care, and almost nobody talks about it.
Housebound is the add-on that lives in the shadow of aid and attendance, and it exists for a real and different situation. It is for the veteran who does not need hands-on help with daily activities, but whose permanent disability keeps him confined to his home for most of his life.
The qualifying standard is exactly that. You spend most of your time at home because of a permanent disability. You are not necessarily bedridden. You may dress and feed yourself just fine. But a permanent condition has shrunk your world down to the walls of your house.
On the rate side, Housebound sits in the middle. For a single veteran with no dependents, the Housebound MAPR in 2026 is $21,313, higher than the basic $17,441, but lower than the $29,093 of aid and attendance.
And here is the rule that genuinely trips people up. You cannot collect aid and attendance and Housebound at the same time. They are mutually exclusive, an either-or choice, because they describe two different levels of the same underlying need. Think of them as two rungs on the same ladder. Housebound is the lower rung, your disability keeps you home, and aid and attendance is the higher rung, you actually need another person to help you function. The VA puts you on the rung that matches your situation, never both at once.
A recurring question from caregivers is whether to apply for the higher level just in case. And the honest answer is to apply for the one that truthfully matches the veteran today. If daily care needs grow later, you can file to move up from housebound to aid and attendance, with the evidence to support it.
So the picture is now 3 layers: basic pension at $17,441, housebound at $21,313, and aid and attendance at $29,093, each one a higher rung for a deeper need. And every layer we have described so far has a mirror image on the survivor side, which is the corner almost everyone forgets. Survivor's pension is the most overlooked benefit we will name today, and the tragedy is who overlooks it. The widows and widowers of wartime veterans who are now elderly and low income themselves. When the veteran passes, the family often assumes every VIA benefit dies with him, and that assumption costs them a benefit they qualify for.
Survivor's pension is a needs-based monthly benefit for the low-income surviving spouse, and in some cases, the unmarried dependent children of a deceased wartime veteran. The veteran had to have qualifying wartime service, and the survivor has to meet income and net worth limits, the same $163,699 net worth limit we covered for the veteran program.
The rate is lower than the veteran rate, which makes sense, but it is far from nothing. The basic MAPR for a surviving spouse with no dependents in 2026 is $11,699 a year, paid as that same gap between the ceiling and the survivor's countable income.
And the add-ons follow the survivor too, which almost nobody realizes. A surviving spouse who needs daily help and qualifies for aid and attendance has a ceiling of $18,697 in 2026, up from that $11,699. The same engine, lifting the same kind of water line, just for the survivor.
Imagine an 81-year-old widow of a Korean War veteran living alone on a tiny social security check, now paying for a part-time aide to help her bathe and cook. She has never heard the words survivor's pension. Her late husband never filed for anything, and so a benefit built precisely for her sits completely untouched.
Her aid costs are deductible medical expenses exactly like the veterans. So once those come out of her countable income, her check can be substantial against that ceiling. The benefit is sitting right there. The only missing piece is someone telling her it exists.
So survivor's pension closes the loop. Isabella, every layer the living veteran can claim has a survivor version, and the survivors are the ones who most often have no idea. Which forces the real question of this whole episode. If these benefits exist, and the math is this good, why do so many eligible people never apply?
So why do so many eligible elderly veterans and survivors never apply for a benefit worth thousands of dollars a year? The answer is not laziness, and it is not pride. It is a stack of very human reasons, and the biggest one is brutally simple. They have never heard the benefit exists.
Right, at the top is the name confusion. We built this whole episode around a veteran hears veteran's pension and assumes it is a military retirement pension he never earned because he only served a few years. Or he assumes it is compensation that requires a service-connected injury. The word itself steers him away from his own benefit.
Layered on top is the combat myth. The belief that VIA benefits are only for veterans who were wounded or saw fighting. We have hammered this, but it bears repeating. Pension never required combat, only wartime era service. So the supply clerk and the stateside mechanic qualify, exactly like anyone else who served in that window.
Then there is fear, and it is a reasonable fear born of misinformation. Families worry that claiming pension will somehow strip away Social Security or Medicaid, so they stay silent to protect what they already have. The interactions are real and worth planning for, but staying silent out of vague fear usually costs more than it protects.
And the cruelest barrier is the one we named earlier, The people who qualify for the richest version aid and attendance are often the least able to fight through paperwork. The bedridden veteran and the widow with failing eyesight are precisely the ones who cannot sit on hold with a call center for an hour.
Here is the fix for almost all of it, and it is free. A VA accredited Veterans Service Organization, a VSO, will help you file a pension claim at no charge, and they do this every single day. Groups like the County Veterans Service Office, the DAV, and others exist for exactly this purpose.
And one honest warning to balance that, because this benefit attracts predators. Be very cautious of anyone charging large upfront fees for pension planning or promising to move your assets to qualify you, especially around that 3-year look-back. A V, accredited agent or attorney, is the legitimate paid path, and the VSO is the free one.
So the barriers are knowledge, the combat, myth, fear, and capacity, grace, and the antidote to all 4 is the same. Get the right help from the right people for free, which brings us to the only thing that actually matters, the specific moves you make this week to find out if this check belongs to you. Let us turn everything into 3 concrete moves you can start this week, because knowledge that stays in your head never becomes a check in your mailbox. 3 steps. In this order, no skipping ahead.
Step 1. Check the service pillar. Pull the DD-214, find the entry and separation dates, and match them against the VIA wartime periods, especially that open Gulf War window that started August 2, 1990. If even one day of active duty falls inside a wartime period and the length of service rule is met, Pillar 1 is cleared.
Step 2. Do the rough finance screen. Add up assets and annual income against that $163,699 limit. But remember to leave out the home you live in and your vehicle, and then subtract your unreimbursed medical and care costs from the income side. Many people who feel over the limit are actually under it once those care costs come out.
Step 3, and this is the one that finishes the job. Contact a V, an accredited Veterans Service Organization, and let them file the claim for free. If daily care needs are in the picture, make sure the application specifically requests the aid and attendance or housebound add-on, because the VA does not automatically assume it.
And one hard guardrail across all 3 steps: do not move or give away assets before you talk to an accredited professional. That 3-year look back can turn a well-meaning transfer into a penalty period with 0 pension. So the order is screen first, plan with a pro second, transfer only if advised.
Survivors run the exact same 3 steps, just using the deceased veteran service record for Pillar 1 and their own finances for Pillar 2. So if you are the widow or widower of a wartime veteran, this checklist is yours too, line for line.
Here is something we would genuinely love to know, so tell us in the comments. Did you or a family member ever assume the VA was only for combat injuries and almost miss this benefit entirely? Your story might be the nudge another veteran needs to finally make that call.
If you forget everything else in this video, remember this: pension is the needs-based benefit for low-income wartime veterans and their survivors. It is not compensation, and it never required combat, and aid and attendance is the add-on that lifts a single veteran ceiling to $29,093 a year. The name fooled you. The benefit was always there. Here is your 1-sentence summary. The veteran's pension is a needs-based benefit for low-income wartime veterans. It is completely separate from service-connected compensation, and aid and attendance is the add-on that lifts a single veteran ceiling to $29,093 in 2026.
The person who needs this most is often the least able to chase it, so this week pull a DD-214 for someone you love and check those wartime dates.
3 years from now, you will thank yourself for screening those finances today, because the care costs draining a family are the very deductions that make this check large.
Coming up next, the one mistake families make trying to qualify for pension that quietly wrecks their Medicaid eligibility at the same time.
Subscribe and stay with this VACA benefits series, because next time a parent enters assisted living, you want to already know which via door to walk through.
Every field borrow openly.
Erica sent a voice memo, 3 minutes long. The short version is she is very impressed and slightly threatened.
This is May, thanks for watching. And Sai, ning off.